All right, guys. Sorry about that. We're back again. This is take two of this live stream. I do apologize. My one cousin tried FaceTiming me, but for some reason it connected to my laptop and the camera went goofy. So that's why things went bonkers for a second. But I'll restart this live stream again. Just go back and won't talk about the first couple topics as much as I was going to talk about, but I will still, start them again. But guys, what is going on? This is the Club of the Man 1993 coming at you. This is a special live stream. I try to do one once a week just for the heck of it, just so I can just, sit down and just chill with my viewers and want to talk about some things. And I thought about for a change, thinking about how this is, despite me being a late bloomer fan, this is my 5th year of being a wrestling fan. I got into wrestling back in 2013. Well, even though I went to my first match in 2012, but I just made a new group of friends, and they wanted to take me to this event just to hang out and whatnot. And I eventually became a full-time fan around Summerslam 2013 due to the rising storyline of Daniel Bryan. But long story short, I'm going to do these 25 moments. I mean, I have gone back and watched older editions of wrestling stuff as well. The days of Trish, Lita, HBK, Triple H, Shawn Michaels, The Undertaker, all back in the early days. And I just went back, but I wanted to focus on, more recent events in this live stream to share those, because those were events that made me, in my opinion, appreciate wrestling for what it is. Like moments that we sit back and I remember when this happened, when this event happened, moments that I can go back and watch. It's more so because, I expect them to happen. I mean, there's some great additions in the past. I would definitely do streams talking about those overall, but this is more so just what I've experienced as a wrestling fan, whether it's a live event attended or just a personal moment, or even if it's not a good, really great moment. It's something that I remember attending that had an impact on me as a wrestling fan. So if you're joining me in the live chat, you may share yours with me as well. I'd be interested in hearing them as well. I hope my previous viewers definitely come back on here to watch this. I do apologize about this happening, guys. It was just just a technical issue. I wanted to fix it. Hold on, let me type something in the live chat. Okay, but anyways, let's get right to it. And this is a quick cheap plug, quick Ollie. Also, if you notice, my Seth Rollins Burn It Down t-shirt came in the mail today. I made a unboxing video on that. If you'd like to see it, check it out. It's pretty cool. But I also, now that makes me have a shirt for all 3 members of the Shield individually, and for the just a Shield t-shirt they have in general. So let's get right to it. I hope everything's okay, because Hassan just said WTF. But yeah, let's get rolling here again. So I'll start back at the beginning with my number 25 pick. This pick was, I put this on this list because this was a moment that I experienced live, and I know it may not be one of the greatest moments of all time, but it was definitely an impactful moment. And also for, most of us, who were concerned about The Undertaker after he didn't really look too good in his WrestleMania 30 match when he lost the streak to Brock Lesnar. And so we weren't sure if he was going to be back or not. And then at Fastlane in 2015, for a few weeks since the Royal Rumble, Bray Wyatt had been, leaving some cryptic messages. We weren't sure who he was talking to. Was it, who could have been? So then finally he comes out in a casket at the Fastlane pay-per-view, and he pretty much clears the air that it is in fact The Undertaker who he was calling out. So Undertaker, he was Undertaker. I'm sorry, guys. I just don't know what's wrong with me today. Undertaker would not respond back to his challenge, though. So we eventually did have Bray Wyatt have this segment on Raw. Again, it was the March 9th, 2015 edition of Raw, which again, I was there live in attendance for this, which is why I put this on the list. That's a little bit weird, son. But but so anyways, so anyways, Bray Wyatt was the man and answer from the Undertaker, and I was sitting like like a good view of the ring, but like the first row, like the second tier up at the well, at the time it was Console Energy Center, now it's PPG Paints Arena, which I hate that name, and so I got a good shot of this. Undertaker's music goes off, and I thought first the Undertaker was there. I'm like, holy crap, this would be pretty cool to see Undertaker in person. I did though see him in person though a year later. It was like a Raw in 2016. It's the Raw the night Triple H faced Dolph Ziggler. That's just an honorable mention I forgot to put on this list. But anyways, Undertaker pretty much didn't appear, but was a message up on the board saying, "You will rest in peace." And like, I think for like fans who have been concerned about Undertaker, that was just a good way to, fulfill. I'm like, yes, definitely he's coming back. I look forward to seeing if he still has it or whatnot. And what I remember most about that segment was there was a lightning strike that hit Bray Wyatt's chair, and it caught that on fire. I just thought it was just cool seeing that moment in person. It was a pretty good aesthetic as well to the show, and I personally enjoyed it, seeing it. So yeah, that was my number 25. I'm just going to go through here really quickly and just to catch up for where I was. Number 24 was a segment from SmackDown last year. It was in the feud with John Cena and Nikki Bella taking on The Miz and Maurice. Again, I didn't think that feud was going to be anything special at first, but I mentioned this before. I respect John Cena. I don't hate him like completely, but there have been times where he definitely has aggravated me. But there's times also where I think he's done some really good things. And I really enjoyed the feud he had with Nikki Bella taking on The Miz and Maurice. I mean, personally, I was hoping John and Nikki would win that match. I mean, The Miz, give the credit, has made me more a fan of him as well. But of course, he made me the heel, just bashing John Cena and Nikki, making the Total Bellas bullshit of segments as well from the lost footage from Total Bellas, mocking John Cena, Nikki Bella, even Daniel Bryan and Brie Bella also. And they were comical, they were funny, they were hilarious. But my favorite of all of them was the segment on SmackDown on the March 28th, 2017 edition. It was the go-home episode of SmackDown for WrestleMania, where John Cena and Nikki Bella finally all right, guys, we've been listening to your stuff all this time, and we find it quite funny. So John Cena just fires back at them. Just like pretty much shoving it all back in your face. Like, you think you have room to talk? Like, where's your brain at now? Because, you guys really talking about this. Well, we have this and this and this and this. And my favorite part of that segment was where John Cena was like, and this is before Maurice was pregnant, keep in mind. Cena was like, and by the way, you're going to get on Nicole for not having any kids. Let me see here. How many years have you guys been married, and how many kids do you have? Huh? Oh, that's right. 0. And they didn't have to crunch the numbers. And he ball taps some business and goes, "Where are you finding blanks down there, sport?" I just remember cracking up at that segment. I remember posting on Twitter that night, love or hate John Cena, give him credit. When he, is like, on the ball, he can cut a pretty darn good promo, and I sure as hell enjoyed that segment. It's just one of those promos that that's why my friends and I was talking about how the WWE needs to stop doing these scripted promos, because they just let these wrestlers be themselves. Then they'll get over easier. Of course, the WWE seems they don't want certain people to get over in the meantime, but moments like that is just like that really entertain me. That's why I give John Cena the credit. Again, he's not my favorite of all time, but I don't hate him fully either, but he does have his moments where he does entertain me, and his moments where I'm just like, as well. Let me see here. Chris Benoit, which WWE game is the best you have? I actually do not have any, I'll be honest. The crowd wave, I cannot remember the crowd wave, what you're referring to there. Yeah, that was my number 24. My number 23 was the feud between the Shield and Evolution in 2014. I just thought, I was, a fan of the Shield, but, I still am whenever they come around. They're definitely 3 of the best, as singles competitors. They've had their ups, they've had their downs, but they're definitely 3 of, the best guys on the roster, whether you love them or hate them or not. I just thought that this feud was, one of my favorites for them as a faction. I mean, they did a feud with the Wyatt the why thing was more so just for one match. This feud was for multiple different matches. And I think there's any way to, get them like on the highest you can get them before splitting them up like they did. It was definitely against Evolution. So that was those are my favorite feuds. Number 22, I talked about the feud with Seth Rollins and Triple H because I didn't because I felt that feud was a feud that like was dealing with a real life situation that just became as real as it could get. Because I mentioned like before the stream, acted up the first time. We had Seth Rollins who came back from a severe knee injury. And then at first he thinks things are just going to be the way they are. And then Triple H turns on him because he felt that Seth Rollins just didn't live up to the bargain that he had for whenever, he made the offer to him when he turned on the Shield. And then for a while, as I said, there wasn't really going anywhere with it because he's kept being involved in tag matches with him and Reigns against Owens and Jericho. That was just, it just got old. I mean, Jericho and Owens definitely entertaining, but it just all got old. We've seen the same match every single week. We just wanted to see something different. And that's the reasons why Raw kind of, wasn't really in the best stage, I felt, in my opinion, back in 2016. Well, in the fall of 2016, because of the constant matches we get between Jericho, Owens, and also Zayn, Rollins, and Reigns. And then finally they went somewhere with the when Seth Rollins' Royal Rumble spot got put on the line against Sami Zayn in a match right before Royal Rumble, and then Triple H's music hits, and it distracted Rollins, and Rollins lost, henceforth staying him keeping out the Rumble. What I like they did was that weekend, Rollins showed up at NXT TakeOver San Antonio to call out Triple H, something different we don't get to see too often. And then the promo where Triple H returns on the Monday after the Royal Rumble is explaining his actions finally, just pretty much saying so before, Seth Rollins didn't live up to the bargain. So, he's like, I just try to, stop whatever he was trying to do and just make a statement and just go back to the office and just be the creator and just try not to be that destroyed guy just end his career anymore. But when Rollins showed the NXT, that was it. I had enough. So that's when he snapped. And then Samoa Joe made his main roster debut, which again, as I said before, I was a little upset that Joe wasn't in the Royal Rumble in 2017, but this kind of made up for it. And I thought it was good. And then Joe would, by accident, of course, re-injure Seth Rollins' knee. The one he had surgically repaired like a year earlier. But he not as serious though. He just tore an MCL, not his ACL, which was ACL. Forget WrestleMania. But I just remember just being invested, just wondering like what's going to happen with Seth. Is he going to be able to make it to WrestleMania or not? It was one of those feuds that just like kept my attention drawn to Raw every single week. I personally just really wanted to see. Everyone just fell for Seth, and I wanted to see him get that match at WrestleMania. As I said, the match at WrestleMania, it was good, but I felt it was a little bit too long, which kind of did, water it down a little bit. But for what it was still a good match. So that's why I gave it that. Let me see here. Remember the finish at Elimination Chamber 2015 with Dean and Seth? Yes, I do remember that. The controversial finish. I'm trying to remember exactly why it got reversed, but I remember Dean Ambrose the first won the title, but then he did. I can't remember it's been a while. I can't remember exactly what he did. I mean, of course, I remember that pay-per-view very well. I mean, I remember also the match of the night in that pay-per-view was definitely Owens and Cena. That match was just amazing. Probably one of the best matches of 2015, in my opinion. We had the two random Elimination Chamber matches. That was for the Intercontinental title, which that match was, and tag match was a little bit better, but the Intercontinental title match was, man, they randomly gave it to Ryback, which even when Ryback won it, I was like, why are you giving this to me? They didn't really commit to Ryback on any occasions at all, but that was that. And you remember Rene Dupree? I do not. I am sorry. But thank you for asking. So now we're all caught up, and let's get on to where we were at before the technical difficulties happened. So my number 21, on this list here, I have was Paige's main roster debut on the April 7th, 2014 edition of Raw, the night after WrestleMania 30. I will not lie. When I first saw Paige, I thought she was definitely one of the more better looking women's wrestlers I thought there was. But of course, what got me more attracted to Paige was her talent, and also the fact that she was young, only 21 years old. She's at the time, she's only a year older than me. She's like, what, 25 now? She's a year older than me. And it just like impressed me that, someone that young was that talented with what they did. And I still personally feel that Paige was the women's wrestler, like in my time, that got me invested in women's wrestling. Before I didn't really care too much for it. I mean, I liked AJ Lee, but there just like wasn't really anything like for her to really do, because everybody else was being treated like crap, as the women were, until they started bringing up, some of the women from NXT, like Charlotte, Becky, and Sasha in 2015, when the whole the Divas Revolution turned into an evolution, as they said in the WWE 24 special, for the women's revolution, as mentioned on the 24 special. I just watched it last night. It's a pretty good one. Check it out if you can. But anyways, like again, Paige's talent, I think, was what got me attracted to the to women's wrestling. I mean, I know, like, if I was watching like 10 years earlier with Trish and Lita, like, they were definitely there also. But like, Mickey was around too, but that time for a while, like, they started, watered down on women's wrestling. It was just going back to where it was during the Attitude Era, just more so is coming out to look good. I mean, I remember the same thing I remember about the 24 special was Natalya mentioning how she was there to wrestle, not just be a model. She wanted to, wrestle. And like, they were getting like 3 minutes, or right down to NXT was getting like 15, 20-minute matches, and they're showcasing what they could do. And yes, the storyline, well, until she got injured when Paige came back, of her feeling that she was the one who started this women's evolution, and gosh, I completely lost my train of thought again. And all this, but she felt that she was the one who started, but then like, Charlotte, Sasha, Becky, and Bayley, and all of them came up, and it seemed like just like, pushed her back into the dark, and she was making a statement for her when she came back. That's why she formed Absolution. So, but yes, I definitely think Paige was someone who got me attracted to women's wrestling. Her feud with AJ Lee was awesome in 2015, but I personally still think that feud could have been a lot more than it was. Really, that feud, if it was today, could have been on the level of Sasha and Charlotte. Now, what I was getting to also before the live stream cut out was I also mentioned how, I do definitely think that, Nikki Bella and Brie Bella were also great wrestlers at the time. And I still think that they're definitely two. Well, Brie's now around and Nikki's part-time. But I do think that Nikki Bella, they were wrestling. I mean, the problem I had, though, was I was fine with the Divas title reign, the one that ended up being the longest Divas title reign. But when it started getting longer and she wasn't defending the title as much, and I heard the reasons why they were doing that, just to spite AJ Lee, rumors have it, that's when I started to kind of like sour on the title reign a little bit. Like I said before, I personally felt she should have dropped the Divas Championship to Naomi when she feuded with her after WrestleMania 31. Because first off, apparently the rumors have it that it was supposed to be AJ Lee being the one who turned on Paige at that number one contenders battle royal and attacked her after the battle royal. But then when AJ retired, they threw Naomi in her place, and I was digging it because I always thought Naomi had the potential. She was a fresh talent, but she was getting the opportunities, and I was digging it. And I really thought, okay, they should go with this, put the title on Naomi. Well, they didn't. And then Naomi kind of went pointless again. But then like Nikki was barely defending the title, and just like it felt like to me they could have done more to have like her being challenged instead of just like not having her defend the title that much that summer, and not really in my opinion defend again until the day she tied the longest reigning Divas Championship record. I thought that was kind of cold. So I'm just like, you really couldn't. I mean, I won't blame on her again. She's a good talent. She's a good wrestler. I'll give her that. But I just felt that they could have done a better job with it at least, and not just like have a sour on it because of them spiting AJ Lee, in my honest opinion. Live chat's kind of quiet, but that's okay. But yeah, so my number 21, getting back to it, is definitely Paige's main roster debut on the April 7th, 2014 episode of Raw. Now, my number 20 has to actually do with John Cena. And to me, this so far is my favorite Survivor Series 5-on-5 elimination match. The story was in there and it fit great. And not only that, the match itself for a short while gave someone else momentum, and it led to a big debut in WWE. I am talking about the 2014 Survivor Series match, Team Cena versus Team Authority. That match was wild. That was just a match that was just crazy. I mean, I was on Team Cena, of course. I wanted Team Cena to win so badly. The Authority tried stacking the odds against Team Cena by throwing guys like, at the time, Mark Henry just turned heel. Rusev was on the rise. Of course, had Rollins and Kane. And who was the last member? Luke Harper was the last member. That was the first time where the Wyatt family split up. Team Cena had Cena, Ziggler, Big Show, which was supposed to be Sheamus at first, till Sheamus was written off due to an injury, Eric Rowan, and Ryback. Now, the biggest surprise I had was I was surprised that Ryback was eliminated as early as he was, because he was the one that was being built up for that match. That he was on the Authority, but then he was trying to be pulled into Team Cena, but he wouldn't do it because of his past problems with Cena. And then they just eliminated him right away. I was a little bit weirded out by that. I thought that was strange, but my energy was just hype. Like, you didn't know what was going to happen for that match. And then, of course, John Cena was taken out of the match because the Big Show turned on him and knocked him out. I'm sorry, but no offense, I did not enjoy that run with Big Show as a heel when he turned on John Cena. I didn't enjoy it. It was just, I just felt he was just being booked as the world's artist. I don't know. I personally just did not enjoy that run as a heel, but he turned on Cena, knocked him out. So, and then he pretty much sided the Authority, but he left. So it was a 3-on-1 for Dolph Ziggler, and Dolph Ziggler just had an unbelievable performance. And then, of course, with the Authority down the 1-on-1 between Ziggler and Rollins, I was just going nuts. And then, of course, Triple H, and then we're just going, and he even brought out Scott Armstrong, who had that history of when he screwed Daniel Bryan out of the title with the Fast Count Night of Champions in 2013. And I thought, okay, there's no way. Like, how the heck are they going to save this? All of a sudden, the lights go out, and I had heard rumors, but I wasn't sure if they were true or not. And sure enough, Sting showed up and made his WWE debut. I remember, of course, we would have gone nuts if we could, but I was at my friend's house watching it, and we couldn't really be too loud. So we're just like, Sting. Like, we couldn't really be that loud at all. So he came in, and I heard rumors of him maybe facing Undertaker, but I'm like, okay, this guy is setting up Sting and Triple H, please, please, please. And it happened. Well, first he knocked out Scott Armstrong, and then he hits Triple H with a Scorpion Death Drop, and then he puts Ziggler on Rollins. Because at the time, both of them they were dead, Rollins and Ziggler. And Ziggler was the sole survivor. Now, again, I know it was Team Cena, but I was happier that Dolph Ziggler got that win to get him the momentum, because he definitely would need it a lot more than Cena. Unfortunately, though, they cut all that momentum off when they weekly brought back the Authority. I wasn't really a big fan of it. They just brought them back, act like nothing happened. It's like you could have done some other angle to bring back the Authority, and just having just Rollins starting to break Edge's neck again. It was just weird. But yeah, if anybody's chatting in the live chat, I'm not getting any live chats, but since I do have some viewers, but thank you again. But yeah, thank you again, guys, for tuning in live. So yeah, anyways, but yeah, that was my my number 20 was the match between Team Cena and Team Authority at Survivor Series 2014. That was probably, in my opinion, my favorite Survivor Series I've watched so far as a wrestling fan as well. Because usually I've not been too impressed with Survivor Series so far, years I've watched. I mean, I don't know if you guys have any suggestions on any other Survivor Series matches to watch that were good. So I would definitely go back and watch them. But yeah, definitely that was probably my favorite. That's number 20. Now, my number 19 actually has to do with the captain of Team Authority, and that's Seth Rollins. Hey, what's up, Robbie? Show's called TakeOver, right? Yeah, my me clear my throat a little bit. Show's called TakeOver, right? He was wearing the Kingslayer shirt at the time. We're good to have you in the live chat, Robbie. I had a little bit of a technical difficulties before, so that's why I had to restart the stream. But yeah, anyways, Seth Rollins. My number 19 was Seth Rollins as Mr. Money in the Bank in 2015. In 2014, he did fine, but I liked his run, especially as Mr. Money in the Bank, even though, again, they brought back the Authority very weakly. When the Authority came back to his cash-in at WrestleMania 31. I remember that because I felt that the match that he got placed into at the Royal Rumble was the only good thing about the Royal Rumble 2015 was that triple threat match for the World Heavyweight Championship was the triple threat with Brock, Cena, and Rollins for the championship. That match was just unbelievable. And personally, the biggest thing about that match was, even though he didn't win the match, I think that's what made Seth Rollins a main eventer as a single star. Because at first he was doing fine, but he just needed something just to help him, get over the hump and become a main eventer. I feel like without that little momentum, I feel like that he may not have gotten to, cashing in at WrestleMania like he did, having that big iconic moment like he did. And then Robbie says, one of my favorite moments as a wrestling fan is anytime the Usos said Shelton Benjamin. Yes, the Usos, how the long way they have come and definitely been a lot more talented. But anyways, him winning that to the feud with Randy Orton starting back up when Orton returned at Fastlane in 2015. That was a very well. The WrestleMania match, Bill, was good, but after that, it wasn't really quite as good. Like the whole thing with the steel cage and the RKO ban for Extreme Rules, that didn't go over too well, with Kane being the gatekeeper. The Fatal 4-Way they had, though, with Randy Orton and all three members of the Shield, that was a good match. I enjoyed that, but the best of it was definitely the build for the WrestleMania match. I like that how, Orton came back. They tried to, get Orton just to settle down, just come back and just be with the Authority, the guys who he had been with for the past 2 years. And the Authority came, he talked him back into coming to the Authority. He, shoot, I forgot what I was going to say. Oh yeah, the Authority, he had then come back and then he was like, all right, fine, I'll stay with the Authority. And then he was just waiting for that right moment to turn on Seth Rollins, which he did. That same night that I talked about earlier, the night that Bray Wyatt demanded an answer from the Undertaker, because I was there live when that happened. Excuse me. But when Orton turned on Rollins and just beat the living crap out of him, I thought that was just, Rollins had it coming like a long way. And we all know when Randy Orton is zoned in and when he's angry, he can be one of the most dangerous men on the planet. I wouldn't want to meet him in a dark alley. And he just literally just laid into Rollins. But then the match that Rollins and Orton had WrestleMania 31 was awesome. I enjoyed it. Of course, my favorite part of that match, of course, was the ending, the curb stomp into the RKO. I remember hearing also on Talk Is Jericho, Rollins was discussing that, and I guess, they just weren't really getting it when they were practicing. And for a while, they thought they was going to scratch, they'll just do a normal finisher, like, Rollins, spring boarding off of the rope or whatnot, and he followed the RKO that way because, Orton's guys like, I just like to play it safe, about 1,000. And finally, Orton's like, you know what? Yeah, let's just do it. Like, if we get it, it will be so cool and it'll be awesome. Well, they got it, but what happened was when Orton hit the RKO on Rollins, he got excited about getting it done. And like if I didn't hear this, I wouldn't have thought. But like when I was like when Randy hit the RKO, his guy was all fired. He was like, yeah. I'm like, maybe that's Randy Orton just playing the character. I'm like, that's right. I got you, little sniveling, conniving little. But then it was actually Orton like breaking character, getting excited, like, yeah, I got it. And the referee was like, you gotta cover him. But the match was good. It's set up for for the feud to continue after WrestleMania, and then Rollins cashing in later on that night, which to me was what was the saving grace for WrestleMania. Like, I'll give it to Brock and Roman. I still thought without the cash in, their match at WrestleMania 31 was definitely still good. It was a good physical match. I could have, been a better build, and of course, not been soured on as much. But what made that match, what people remember that match best for, though, is the cash in by Seth Rollins as well. And he had no help here. He came out there with Brock Lesnar out there, and Roman Reigns, and then Rollins won the title after curb stopping Roman. He didn't do it to Brock, and he escaped the title. It was just a great moment, and I enjoyed it. I thought it was great. But yeah, so we had we had Seth Rollins. My number 19 was Seth Rollins as Mr. Money in the Bank in 2015, because Mr. Money in the Bank. That's it. Number 18 was a recent one, and it's another run. The run of Jericho. Remember it all, man. Back in 2016 to 2017. I remember when Chris Jericho came back. I've always, it was always cool to see Chris Jericho. But at first, I wasn't feeling his return when he came back. It felt kind of pointless when I didn't know until I listened to an episode of Inside the Ropes where he knew that either way, he knew that he was going to turn heel this run. So he was planting those seeds to make people, kind of like sour on him a little bit, so that when he turned heel, people would legitimately hate him, as he wanted to get by. But then, he stuck around for a while. As I remember the Fozzy were doing other things, so he thought, let's just take the year off. We'll regroup in 2017. And the original agreement was that he would stay till WrestleMania 33 if he faced Nakamura in his main roster debut match. But then, after working with him on numerous tag matches, he said, what about Kevin Owens? So that's when they built their own Kevin Owens. And despite what I said earlier about him being constant tag matches with Owens facing Reigns and Rollins, and then those four would just face each other for 3 or 4 months in the fall of 2016, there were still a lot of things that came out of there. The lines of Jericho's catchphrases and whatnot. He got the word "it" over. He, of course, as I'll remember most, got the list of Jericho invented, and it was just entertaining. It really was, at 47 years old, one of Chris Jericho's best runs. Either that or 2008 had to be Jericho's best run. But I was just happy to get the full-fledged Jericho, for my current time, just to sit there and remember saying, yeah, I remember when Chris Jericho did all this, and it entertained me as heck. So that's why I give that the run of Jericho from 2016 to 2017 as my number 18. I hope I didn't have any of my viewers not watching me anymore because of the technical difficulties I had before. I do apologize again about that, guys. But anyways, that's my number 18. Number 17 was a main event of a pay-per-view. The first half of it was average. It wasn't terrible, but it was what it was. But the second half of that pay-per-view was awesome. And that main event as well was just unreal. And it was just a historical moment, in my opinion. I'm talking about the main event of Money in the Bank 2016, which I again feel that pay-per-view, the first half of it was all right, but the second half had potential, in my opinion, to make that pay-per-view a pay-per-view of the year, in my opinion, because that was a really strong pay-per-view. And that main event, it was Seth Rollins taking on Roman Reigns for Reigns' WWE World Heavyweight Championship. And, well, of course, we did know at the time was that Reigns was getting ready to drop the title because he was going to be facing his 30-day suspension for violating the wellness policy. And Rollins had just made his big return after being out with the knee injury. And him and Reigns, this is the first time we've seen them fight how many times on Raw or whatnot, but them fighting on pay-per-view was fresh. They were supposed to have a match at Survivor Series 2015, which I really wonder what would have happened if that match would have still happened had Rollins not been injured. But so we had Roman and Seth, and the weird thing was that was that time where a lot of fans felt that was, and I do agree, that was a missed opportunity to turn Roman Reigns heel. all Seth Rollins just had to do was just admit that, Rollins was more over with the fans than he was. But that, like, the build for that feud had its moments, like the feud where, like, the moment where, like, Rollins would come out, like, run down, like, not going to do anything, run back. To me, I just felt like that was Vince trolling with us personally, in my honest opinion. But the match they had, my goodness. I mean, first off, like I said, like, Reigns, like, felt like he was the one just, like, just, like, bullying Rollins. It's like, you really think you're going to try to get this title and whatnot? These two put on a heck of a match. I remember one of my favorite moments of the match was the counter with Rollins. Reigns going for the spear, but Rollins countering into a pedigree. He kicked out of that, but then he hit Reigns with another pedigree, and he beat Reigns clean, which I thought that was cool. You see Seth win the title back, get some big momentum going. But just an hour earlier, though, in that pay-per-view, another former Shield brethren, Dean Ambrose, who, despite him having a really bad match at WrestleMania 32 with Brock Lesnar, that was a huge disappointment. He got a lot of momentum still, and still was one of the hotter baby faces going at the time with this feud with Chris Jericho, which that was a really great feud also. I forgot to mention that when I talked about Jericho's run in 2016 and 2017. But I remember, and here's the thing also, ironically, like Seth, who just came from a knee injury, I like 2 or 3 weeks earlier had, not a major, but like I suffered like a minor knee injury, like when I was at a trampoline park with some friends, and I hyperextended my left knee. But I mean, I didn't have to get any surgery or anything. It was just I just had to just rest and whatnot. But I hadn't really been doing much on it for like a few times. I will not remember when Dean's music hit. I just like jumped out and was like, oh my goodness, are we really gonna do this? Like, I cash in, having like, all three members of the Shield. Like, plus also I'm like, okay, if Dean comes out and cashes in, like, is Roman gonna, maybe turn or something? Something like big was gonna happen. And Ambrose's music hits. And again, Michael Cole, don't get me wrong, has had his moments where he's really been a terrible commentator. But besides his call at WrestleMania 30, A Miracle on Bourbon Street, I think this is one of his best calls also. He was just freaking out. It's like, where was Ambrose? You didn't know where he was. And Rollins distracted. And then Ambrose came from behind, struck him in the back of the head, and he cashed in. And Dean Ambrose, another guy who we felt was just, being overlooked and whatnot, cashed in and won the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. I went nuts. I was just like, this is unreal. This is just one of my favorite moments, I'd say, as a wrestling fan. I went nuts. I was just jumping up. I'm like, yes. It was unreal. And it was a historical moment because all three members of the Shield had held the title that night in a span of 5-10 minutes. It was just a great moment to see. Now, it did set, though, for the Shield triple threat at Battleground. I was hoping they would have waited till SummerSlam for that match, but with the brand split happening, of course, having two world titles, I unfortunately did not happen. So, anyways, we did have that happening, but the match they still had Battleground. It was still good. The problem was, one, Roman Reigns was suspended for most of that build, so he wasn't really there. I mean, in fact, he was just getting his rematch for the title that he lost at Money in the Bank. But it would be nice to have him around. But I would like to see them try to have the triple threat match with the Shield guys again. So maybe that will be the case when it comes to years down the line. But we'll see what happens there. But that's number 17, the main event of Money in the Bank in 2016. Now, my number 16 pick is a return that happened in 2016. And it was a big one. It was a huge shocker. Somebody who I didn't get to experience as a wrestling fan. There's several people that I look back and watch. I'm like, man, I wish I would have been able to see this guy wrestle live. When I was just, these people who have a big impact on me. And one of them that I was kind of interested in was Shane McMahon. Now, like a week or two before this segment happened, I had heard rumors that the Undertaker's opponent at WrestleMania 32 this year was somebody who was currently at the time not on the roster or not signed to a WWE deal. I'm like, who could this possibly be then? February 22nd, 2016. It was the night after Fastlane, which was not really that great of a pay-per-view. And at the time, with what happened 2 weeks earlier, was something that happened that I will be mentioning a little bit later on also. I was just like this is just going to be a waste of time. I'm not going to really, enjoy this that much. But then the night after, they had the Vincent J. McMahon Award, Excellence Award, and Shane was going to give it to Stephanie. And as she's about to make her acceptance speech, she claims she had prepared for, all of a sudden, Shane O'Mac's music hits. And at first, well, I hear the music. I wasn't familiar with Shane O'Mac's music, but when I pull back and we see it says Shane O'Mac, I'm like, are you kidding me? Are they really bringing Shane back? I'm like, no, this has got to be something like a joke or something like that. Sure enough, Shane McMahon came out. And he came down to the ring. Of course, also remember too, I'm sure it's probably edited out, but Vince McMahon, like on live TV, said, "I'm gonna give you an effing beating" or whatnot. He actually dropped the F-bomb on live TV, and I'm just like, ugh. But anyways, what this promo was long, but the thing was Shane McMahon. What made this promo feel real is Shane McMahon was pretty much just like saying what had been going on lately, and ratings were down and all this other stuff, talent not being utilized well and whatnot. And I am just like, geez, this guy is here, and he's pretty much just sounding like us. And it felt like Shane McMahon was being there, was trying to save us, and especially save us from what the Authority had been doing since they formed in 2013. But I just remember that being one of the more shocking returns, like something there was no rumors I heard of like Shane McMahon's come back to WWE. Yes, the feud with him and Taker was just weird because it's like, okay, why would you pick Taker to be, Vince McMahon's handpicked guy to, have him cost Shane his opportunity to take over Monday Night Raw, even though he still took over anyway afterwards because he showed courage by jumping off the cell. It was weird, but I just remember that being one of my more surprising returns, in my opinion. But that was my number 16, the Shane McMahon's return on the February 22nd, 2016 edition of Raw. Now, my number 15 is something that's not really meant to be remembered as good, but it was a moment. I mean, it was a heel turn, and it was like shocking to me because I knew eventually the Shield was going to break up. But I'll be honest, I for some reason did not think it was going to be Seth Rollins going to be the one turning his back on the Shield, even though it made sense of him being known as the architect and whatnot. I really thought Dean Ambrose could be because he was a lunatic, or could have been Roman Reigns because it was obvious he was much more talented. He was much more talented. Well, he had the more look, in my opinion, to be a talented star, be more of a guy that people would want to beat. So that maybe it was going to be Roman. I did not think it was going to be Seth. Of all three members, Seth was the last guy I thought was going to do it. The June 2nd, 2014 episode of Raw, the night after the second match between the Shield and Evolution, one of my favorite feuds of all time. We had first earlier in the night, Batista quit because he was saying, I never got my one-on-one championship match, and I won the Royal Rumble, whatnot. And Triple H, so we got to stop the Shield and destroy them, whatnot, because they keep getting to us, and until that happens, no one is getting anything. So then Batista just quit. So that happened. It's like, wow, a swerve. I said, what's going to happen? So at first, I think what happened was the main event was supposed to be a match between Randy Orton and Roman Reigns. So I'm just like, okay, what could possibly happen here? I had heard rumors since that was around the time they were going to turn Sheamus heel, but they put a hold on that for a while and waited until 2015 to do that. I thought that maybe Sheamus was going to join the Authority or something like that, because Triple H came out saying there's always a plan B. And I saw that Rollins had a chair in his hand. He's probably just preparing. And even when he was getting ready to swing the chair, I just didn't think anything of it. But then it didn't hit me until he made contact with Roman Reigns. And I just remember my jaw just dropped. I was like again, it's like I didn't expect it to be Rollins. I don't know why I thought it was going to be either Ambrose or Reigns, but Rollins was the last guy I thought was going to be the one to break up the Shield. And I'm just like, what? Like, really? Like, I was shocked. Like, I was in deep shock about that. And it's just one of those moments that as a wrestling fan, I just felt like impacted. I'm just like, it's like one of those moments that you'll sit back and say, man, like I'll just remember how I felt when that happened. Like say now, like, other wrestling fans and like, yeah, what did you think about Seth Rollins being the one to turn on the Shield? I was stunned. Like I really just couldn't believe it. But so yeah, that is my number 15 pick was Seth Rollins turning on the Shield. Number 14, as I said earlier, John Cena was going to be mentioned again. As in my time, my favorite times for John Cena was in 2015, despite the fact he seemingly sent Rusev down a bad path with their feud. One of my favorite things about John Cena's career is his run as the United States champion in 2015. The U.S. Open Challenge. See, everyone else as U.S. champion have tried to, duplicate the whole idea of the U.S. Open Challenge. And to me, it doesn't work because it's always the same people. John Cena had great matches on Raw with guys like Dean Ambrose, Bad News Barrett, King Barrett, sorry, that's when he turned into King Barrett, Neville, Sami Zayn, Dolph Ziggler, Kevin Owens, like even when they were feuding, like their match at Elimination Chamber 2015, awesome. I loved it. It was amazing. One of the best matches of the year, as I said. And of course, the best match of all his matches for the U.S. Open Challenge, since the match with him and Owens was just a champion versus champion match. But the best match I thought that was for the U.S. Open Challenge was, I forgot what date it was, but it was one of the two it was the second match he had with Cesaro. And that was around the time, I think the WWE finally, because it was around a time where Tyson Kidd had suffered that career-ending neck injury in a house show match against Samoa Joe. And the team itself was starting to turn face because when they had the New Day go after them for the tag champions, they sort of did a little bit of a double turn because they wanted to turn the New Day heel, which was the best thing for them to do because before that, New Day was a bunch of clowns that probably weren't going to get anywhere because of that. But so the New Day and then feud. And then when Tyson got injured, that's when Cesaro started getting a little bit more momentum as a babyface. And this match right here just proved why Cesaro should be a strong, main event caliber player. I mean, the guy can wrestle any way. He never gets tired. He's fast. He's agile. He's quick. He's strong. What can't this guy do? He's unreal. And he showed it all in the U.S. Open title match with John Cena. And as I give John Cena all the credit, he may have beaten everybody in his U.S. Open challenge except for when he lost to Seth Rollins at Summerslam 2015, but that was still a good match. And he dropped that title to Alberto Del Rio. Wasn't a fan of that match at all. I didn't like how they just made it. They said Del Rio made it so it was that easy to beat John Cena the way he did. I just wasn't really a fan of that. I know Cena was going to be, leaving and take time off. That's when Cena started, going on his his Hollywood career and whatnot outside of WWE. But I wasn't really a big fan of how they did that. But definitely, he definitely, even though he beat them, he made a bunch of upcoming stars just look so good though with those U.S. Open challenges. So that's why that is my number 14 on my top 25 list. My number 13 happened on the July 20th, 2015 episode of Raw. It goes back to The Undertaker. One of my favorite brawls to ever take place. Now, you can make an argument. It could be the night after WrestleMania 31, which I believe was the March 30th episode of Raw, the night where Brock Lesnar just wreaked havoc. That's an honorable mention. I don't have it on this list. He wreaked havoc, but one of my favorite brawls. I just remember it was one of those brawls that you want to see where it's you cannot contain either of these guys at all. And I just remember as soon as Brock's music hit, it's it's go time, and the announcers ran and everything. It was a flat out fight. And I'm talking about the night after Battleground 2015 when The Undertaker returned and targeted Brock Lesnar because he had had enough of him and Paul Heyman just bragging about how he defeated the streak. And the brawl they had the night after, oh my goodness, it was just crazy. You had the whole roster out there trying to break them up. And the stuff that they were saying to each other, my goodness, like that brawl, like even had to go to commercial and come back, and it continued backstage. It was just a great looking brawl. It was one of my favorite brawls of all time to take place, and it was done by these two, big guys that were just, could literally tear each other apart. So that's why my number 13 is the Brock Lesnar Undertaker brawl. My number 12 is a return. We talked about this woman at number 21. This was a return. Number 12, despite the fact that, this woman's career is most likely over, is Paige. Paige's return to Raw just a few months ago on November 20th, 2017. Paige had returned after being absent from the WWE since, I believe, I think it would have to be around the time the brand split came back, because her and Del Rio had just started dating, and she had heat about that because WWE and Del Rio weren't on the greatest terms at the time. They both were suspended for 30 days for violating the wellness policy. And then Paige got suspended. Well, when she was about to come back, she got suspended a second time for violating the wellness policy. Essentially suspended for 60 days. But around that time also, she had a neck injury and had to get neck surgery. So she was out for a while. And for a while, I truly thought Paige was not coming back to WWE. I thought that, the iron had been really hot with her and all this other stuff that was going on with her and Del Rio. I shouldn't say this should be an issue, but there was the sex scandal where all those that stuff of Paige was leaked, even though it's like, come on, don't hold it against her. Everybody does that. I don't do that, but everybody does that. It's like, why is that such a big deal? She had sex. It's not like she cheated on someone or whatnot. Well, I don't know if she did or not, but it's like, come on now, why are we holding this against her? But all that stuff going through, and the relationship with her and Del Rio just seemed like it was not healthy at all. I was worried. I was worried personally that I was going to wake up one morning and I was being told that Paige was dead, and I did not want that to happen to her. I just wanted her to get her life back together, and she seemed like she did, because she did eventually, start becoming a little bit more public on social media again. She said she was doing great. She was happy. Well, her and Del Rio did split up. And then she made her return on the November 20th, 2017 edition of Raw. She came back as a heel. It's the way I felt she should have been. Just, her being the one saying, I was the one who really started the women's evolution, not all these other ladies that are here. You people just forgot about me and whatnot. And I just remember, I didn't get to catch Raw live because I was out visiting friends. But when I came back, actually, one of my friends accidentally spoiled it to me. That Paige had come back. And I'm like, oh, man, I'm missing this return. But she was welcomed back with open arms. She got a huge pop. Huge. And, she was back. She looked like she was excited to be back. She was ready until she got injured. I was looking forward to, what's going to happen with her and Absolution, which they're being built really well. But like I said, if Paige is not really going to be wrestling anymore, then now Absolution just looks completely pointless, unfortunately. But I was just really happy to see Paige just make it back, being welcomed back with open arms. Just seemed like she was getting her life back on track. But it just really sucks that she suffered that stinger, and it looks like now she may not be back. But that is my my number 12, Paige's WWE return. My number 11 is somebody who made his WWE debut in 2016. I had heard stuff about this guy, but I didn't know much about him. Not only did I become a big fan of his later on that year, but I got to meet him exactly 1 year later. And that is AJ Styles' WWE debut in the 2016 Royal Rumble match. Need I say more? There's no doubt about it that today, AJ Styles is like the current Shawn Michaels we have. AJ Styles, may not be on the same level as Shawn Michaels, but he is the closest thing we have to Shawn Michaels. And I had heard for a while that he was coming to WWE, but we didn't know when. I heard rumors also he may go down to NXT first. But the thing is, even though, I didn't know much about him yet, I just knew that this guy was a big deal. And when he debuted at the Royal Rumble match, I'm sure you know some of us, like I know my good friend Gene from BS Podcasts. You subscribe to him on wrestling. He's awesome to hear from. I forgot what he said his reaction was when AJ came out, but I remember like I was excited, like probably not as excited as I would be now since I know him a lot better and know who he is and what the talent is that he presented like around the world. But I was just excited to see him come in, and I was happy that they gave him, the time in the Rumble. He had a great performance. He was in there for almost a half an hour. I thought that's plenty. He was eliminated by Kevin Owens, which was a reasonable person for him to be eliminated by. But I just remember it was just a start to, another run and for another big star coming to the WWE, as we all saw happen there. But that's why my number 11 is AJ Styles WWE debut. Speaking of AJ Styles, let's go with so far, which I hope this match is topped off at WrestleMania 34, as we should still be getting it unless he loses that stinking 6-pack challenge at WrestleMania. But at Fastlane. But my number 10 is my favorite AJ Styles match so far up on the main roster. That is AJ Styles versus John Cena at SummerSlam 2016. My opinion, the match of the year in 2016. What can I say about this match? This match was just brutal. It was awesome. It was two of the best. It was literally WWE versus TNA. I just remember, the story there with, Styles, that shocking heel turn. That's something else, another honorable mention. The night Styles turned heel on Cena, because I did not expect Styles to turn heel, but it all made sense with, he ran into a big roadblock. He wasn't sure where he was going next. And he was still, again, I feel, even though AJ Styles turned heel, he was still cheered for because, people loved him, but that heel turn was just more so just to, boost him being a main eventer and improving his promos and whatnot. Because as Chris Jericho said, one of the biggest reasons why he wanted to push for having the pay-per-view match at Fastlane with Styles was to try to help him also improve his character as well. And I felt he wasn't too bad at first when he came in, but I felt his mic skills needed improvement as well. And that heel turn was lit the fire underneath him and got him to where he is today. And this match against John Cena, my goodness, he had a little bit of help from the club at Money in the Bank, but it was still a great match. John Cena teamed up with Enzo and Cass to take on AJ Styles and Gallows and Anderson, which they were the club until they split them up. But they had a great match at Battleground. And this match, my goodness, all the near falls and whatnot, we thought, okay, Cena's always got to get that win back, though, and just, ruin the momentum of Styles. But I will not forget when Cena did that avalanche AA. Keep in mind, that was the same move used to beat Styles. He pinned Styles with at Battleground. When Styles kicked out of that, I was just like, oh my goodness, come on. I will not forget the look on Cena's face. And Styles has got to win this now. You can't do this. And it's just the momentum there. When Styles ripped off the armband to go for a second or third phenomenal forearm of the match. And when he beat Cena, I just jumped up. I was marking out. I'm just like, holy hell. This is what happens when, when you have people, at times, I'll be honest, where John Cena seems like he just always, cuts off an upcoming star's momentum. And just when he puts somebody over, it just he makes them look as good as possible when he does put somebody over. And that is exactly what he did with AJ Styles. There was no doubt in my mind. I'm like, this guy's got to be world champion now. There's nothing stopping. I like Dean Ambrose getting his world title run, but when that happened, I'm like, I'm sorry, Dean. It's time for AJ to do his thing now. And that's when they gave the title to AJ Styles. And he had an unbelievable run as WWE champion. It was just an awesome match. It was just it's probably one of my favorite one-on-one matches of all time, in my opinion. That's what my number 10 is, AJ Styles versus John Cena. My number 9 is one of my favorite episodes all time of Monday Night Raw. It was a Raw that took place right here in Pittsburgh. I unfortunately, though, was not in attendance because my one friend I usually go with, he was going with his dad that night because it was his dad's birthday. I just wanted to be just a father-son thing. So I'm like, that's fine, I understand. So I just stayed at home and watched Raw. But man, was that an episode of Raw I wish I would have attended. What do we have in that? We had Braun Strowman, re-debuting as like who the guy he is today. That was the start of the path of Braun Strowman's destruction. One of my favorite women's matches of all time, happened that night. I mean, you can make an argument the Falls Count Anywhere match could have been the best one in this feud, but I remember it was my women's match of the year for 2016. But the match was Sasha and Charlotte. Just the emotion in that match and just the build to it, with Sasha just waiting to get her opportunity and just to fight Charlotte, since she had been stuck with the tag matches. We had just had Sasha bring up Bayley for one night as her mystery tag partner at what's it called, at Battleground, and then when Sasha had that match with Charlotte, like that time Charlotte's built up so well as a heel, like you didn't know who was going to be able to take that title off of her, and the odds were stacked against her, as she had Ric Flair by her side for how long, her father, but then he went away and Dana Brooke was then her protege, which that was having Dana Brooks her protege. It wasn't really anything that special, but Dana been helping out Charlotte a lot, and then whenever Dana got kicked out, like this is early to think that, but to me it felt like watching. Now I look back at it, it felt very similar to the match happened a couple months later at No Mercy, the career versus title match for the Intercontinental Championship, Dolph Ziggler versus The Miz. This is what that match felt like. And then like towards the end, like you even see Charlotte get that fire in her eyes. She's like, Sasha, you will never beat me. And then Sasha though gets her in her then to roll her up, and she taps out to the bank statement. I was just like, oh, like the emotion was there. I really did not think they were going to put on like almost an instant classic on Raw and have Sasha win the Raw Women's Championship. I'm just like, holy heck, like that was just. It was just an unreal match. And then the story of that night, of course, Finn Balor's main roster debut, which I believe it was his birthday also. There were two fatal four-ways that night, and the winner of those fatal four-ways faced each other in the main event, and the winner would go on to face Seth Rollins, since he was the #1 draft pick for Raw at SummerSlam for the debuting Universal Championship. And Finn Balor was in one of those fatal four-way matches, and they were pretty good fatal four-ways. I'm trying to remember who was all in them. I know we had Roman Reigns, Sami Zayn. I can't remember who was in exactly what, but Finn Balor, Cesaro, Rusev, probably Kevin Owens. Two others I can't remember off the top of my head. But anyways, two great fatal four-ways, and then Finn Balor won his match, and Roman Reigns won his. And at first I thought, oh, great, they're just going to feed Balor to Reigns, or just have Balor win some like cheap victory or whatnot. No, Finn Balor and Roman Reigns put on an amazing main event, and Finn Balor won that match clean. I will not forget. I remember as soon as Balor pinned him clean, I was excited to see him get that rocket launch push to the main event, because as you know, he already deserved it because of the great title run. He had the NXT title down in NXT. As soon as he pinned Roman Reigns that night, I literally got up, did a Bo Dallas victory lap around like the center floor of my house. Like I got up, ran out of my living room, through the dining room, then the kitchen, the entrance hallway, back into my living room. I was just marking the heck out. I was just like, wow. I mean, again, when Roman Reigns is being built well, I mean, I love watching him, but that was just a big moment for Finn Balor. I just wanted to see him go somewhere up on the main roster. He's starting to get somewhere again, but when he returned after his shoulder injury, they weren't really doing much to him for a while, and he had a very disappointing feud with Finn Balor with Bray Wyatt. Almost had a terrible match with him. If that match with the Pumpkin Demon Balor taking on Bray Wyatt and Drag Sister Abigail took place at TLC that year with instead of having him and AJ Styles, I bet you any money that could have been the worst match of the year, because that feud was just, that fourth match just did not need to happen. They had a match the week before SummerSlam just to set up Finn Balor becoming the Demon again after they poured the acidic liquid on him. The match they had at SummerSlam was average. Their best match was definitely man-to-man match they had. Because Finn Balor was like, okay, Finn, we're not going to have you having your demons and whatnot. We're just going to be just man versus man at No Mercy. I'm just like, and then when they did this, they're about to do this fourth match. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. This doesn't make any sense at all. But thank goodness it didn't happen. But one of my favorite episodes of Raw is my number 9, the July 25th, 2016 episode of Raw, which I wish I could have attended live, but unfortunately I did not. My number 8 really isn't a happy moment, but it's just one of those days that, I just remember as a wrestling fan, you have your heroes and you have those guys that, it's what their attention were grabbing as you started in this business. And this man, as most of you who've watched my videos know, that this was a guy who, his story to the top was what got me into watching wrestling. And of course, I'm talking about Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan, again, was just this underdog that got built up so well in the summer of 2013. He was being doubted, of course, and then, he thought he had a fair fight with John Cena, with Triple H being special guest referee at Summerslam 2013. And then, of course, he turned his back on him and allowed Randy Orton to cash in Money in the Bank on him. And he had the feuds go all the odds of WrestleMania 30. We'll actually talk about that towards the very end of this video. But anyways, after he had all that, like that year of him being the biggest thing going on at WWE, he had to have neck surgery in the summer of 2013, a match against Randy Orton in June. It was a match that was actually stopped against Orton, and he was happy about that. He had did a suicide dive and something jolted in his neck, and I forgot what he had in his neck that was actually wrong, but they told him, right now you're functional, but at some point you're going to have surgery on this. And he could have had the surgery then, and he would have recovered in maybe a month or two. That's what was supposed to happen when he first had the surgery a year later. But he thought, if I do that now, then I won't get the push I'm getting now. So we'll see what happens. So he waited until a week or two after the Extreme Rules pay-per-view, and he was supposed to recover in 6 to 8 weeks. He thought he kept the talent, but then they ended up stripping him when it was going to be longer than 6 to 8 weeks because the strength in his one arm wasn't coming back. And there were rumors for a while he was going to have an elbow surgery, and it'll keep him out for 6 to 12 more months. I was like, oh gosh, this really isn't good. But then the surprise announcement on the last episode of Raw in 2015, he was going to be entering the Royal Rumble, which is awesome. We know how that went. He won the Intercontinental title, but then right after WrestleMania on a SmackDown in Texas in a match against Sheamus, who just returned and turned heel, he suffered a concussion, and he had to relinquish the Intercontinental title. And this time, I honestly felt this may be it. I really felt this was going to be it. I kept hearing he was being cleared by other doctors, except for Dr. Maroon, who was saying with his history of concussions, he had no will to clear him. Now, something else happened the day after Bryan found out he retired, but I will talk about that later on towards the end of this video. But Bryan eventually did go to some big doctor in New York that does tests, more advanced neurologists, and they found something inside his brain that, for what he had, that caused him to have 4 post-concussion seizures and whatnot. And that's when he pretty much realized, they're right, I have to retire. So February 8th, 2016, I will not forget this day. I was at my internship. I was waiting for a video to export. I get a text. Actually, my phone went off a couple times. I pulled it out. I got a WWE alert, an ESPN alert, and a text from my good friend Dan Geiza showing me Daniel Bryan on Twitter saying he's going to announce his retirement on Raw that night. There was rumors that weekend that he was going to be in Raw that night, since Raw was going to be in Seattle, which is right outside of his hometown of Aberdeen, Washington. And again, just, me being a fan of him, just, how he made me a wrestling fan and whatnot. It hit me hard. It was kind of a sad day for me. It's a good thing, as those of us know, I'm a huge baseball fan. And, I really soured down on baseball last year because of my hometown team sucking. But this year I'm trying to build that passion back. Luckily, even though Daniel Bryan was the main reason why I started watching wrestling in the first place, I had, grown interest in other superstars as well. So this didn't stop me from watching wrestling, but it was tough because this guy was literally a hero to me, someone I looked up to. As I mentioned too, I was always that kid growing up who, I was not, the one who was like, getting to the top as easily as others. I had to work extra hard to get there. I consider myself a little more of an underdog. And that's why I look at guys like, Daniel Bryan, or even guys like Sami Zayn, Johnny Gargano, Seth Rollins, all these other guys who just, had to go through the obstacles to get there. And, I really looked up to him, and I was a little sad that day. It was just rough. I would just remember watching Raw and just like, how am I going to, what happens if I can't get through this speech? I was sad, and I'm like, oh, come on, don't tell me when I cry. I don't want my parents to see me crying about this. I got through the retirement speech, but the moment that almost got me, the moment where I almost started bawling my eyes out, was when he talked about his dad. The night for the go-home show for TLC 2013, when they're doing the championship ascension, when they were doing that segment where they were going to celebrate merging the WWE and world titles together at TLC, and it was in Seattle, and the crowd hijacked Raw and was chanting for Daniel Bryan. And Bryan mentioned how his dad was in the audience that night, and it was the last time that his dad got to see him live. And because his dad passed away right after WrestleMania 30 that year, which is what started, the downward spiral for everything with Daniel Bryan. That was a part that almost got me. I almost started crying there, but I kept it together. It was a great send-off speech, and it was just a very touching moment I felt as a wrestling fan. That's why number 8 is Daniel Bryan's retirement speech on the February 8th, 2016 edition of Raw. Number 7. I'm going to have to pull up my phone here for this. But my number 7 is a return that took place last year. As I mentioned before, with me being a late bloomer fan, there were so many wrestlers that I wished I could have, seen wrestle live. And some of them I wasn't sure where we're going to. Like guys like Edge, of course, I'm probably not going to get to see wrestle live because of his injury. But a group of guys that I did want to see wrestle were definitely the Hardy Boys. And when I heard rumors of them coming back, I was excited. And when they came back at WrestleMania 33, I marked the heck out. And when New Day came out before that match, I knew it had to have been happening. So because of that, I pulled out my phone and I'm like, guys, I'm getting ready just in case. And so I like to share it with you, or if you want to go back and watch it. But this was my reaction with my friends when the Hardy Boys returned. It's a little dark, I know, but I just remember I marked the heck out when they came back. Because again, they were two guys, I had seen their matches. I enjoyed them. Some I've gone back to watch the old, the matches they had when they feuded in 2009. I enjoyed that. I feel like, their match at WrestleMania 25 is definitely a little bit of like a hidden gems. Wink, wink, for Robbie, if you're still watching from whenever we do our hidden gems live stream soon. But I thought they had a great match there, and then their I Quit match at what was the pay-per-view called now? Crap, I can't remember what it was called. I Quit match at Backlash in 2009. That's what it was. That was a great match also. So they were two guys I wish we would be able to see live. And now that they're back, well, unfortunately, Jeff's been out with an injury for a while. I'm glad I've been able to, experience that. So, but that's why they're still one of my favorite returns. That's why my number 7 is when the Hardy Boys returned at WrestleMania 33. My number 6 is my favorite NXT TakeOver event of all time. Now, you could say it is an event that I attended live, which I will share later. But that was definitely the problem. Is I didn't get to see that full pay-per-view, and I'll explain why, even though I attended it live. But my favorite NXT TakeOver of all time is one from 2016, NXT TakeOver Dallas. Just a heck of a show that was. We had, I'm trying to think of all the matches we had on the show. I think we had 5 matches. We had the Revival taking on American Alpha for the NXT Tag Team Championships. Just the best match, one of the best tag matches of the year at the time. American Alpha were so hot as babyface tag teams. The Revival have been built up as this really dominating, unstoppable tag team with that motto, no flips, just fists. They still do have, but they have, they need to get something going a little bit more up on the main roster. But they're just a great tag team. They're bad guys, but they have this great psychology, and just playing the mind games with them and just working well together. You don't do anything extremely out of the ordinary. They keep things simple and they win clean, and they're so good. They look like a team you can beat. And again, with American Alpha, which is how they ruined them up on the main roster. That's how great of matches they had with them as well. I know we had one other match besides, let me see here. We had Bayley versus Asuka, the first one, which I think that was their best match. At the time, Bayley had been built up again with that strong, lovable babyface character with the NXT Women's Championship. And this was the right time to, pass the title on to Asuka, who made Bayley look as strong as ever in that loss. Having Bayley didn't tap out, she wasn't pinned. Asuka got Bayley to pass out to win the match. That was an unreal women's match as well. Just 2 women who had their own passions and whatnot in there, getting the win to a match between Sami Zayn and Shinsuke Nakamura, making his NXT debut. And the thing was, I had heard about him. I didn't know much about him, but let me tell you something. If you didn't know who Shinsuke Nakamura was, you definitely figured out who he was that night. And he just put on an absolute classic with Sami Zayn. And Sami Zayn, of all the losses he's taken, definitely probably the strongest he ever looked in the loss as well. It was a great, passing of the torch match as Sami Zayn, probably one of the hottest baby faces in NXT for quite some time. And then, he patched on as Shinsuke Nakamura, became the new guy, the Beat also. But that match was definitely one of the best matches of the year in 2016. Also, I remember the match that I forgot. Baron Corbin versus Austin Aries. It could have been a little bit better match. Definitely probably the weakest match on the card, but it was still a good match. It's just a shame that Austin Aries' run in WWE wasn't, as good as it should have been. He suffered that eye injury, and he was put on the Cruiserweight division. So when Cruiserweight division sucked, and then that's when he left, and now he's back on Impact Wrestling doing better things. But they had a good match. And the main event with Finn Balor and Samoa Joe, the feud they had was great as well. It was also one of the first times I ever saw that there was a championship change on a house show when he beat Balor a few weeks after TakeOver Dallas, and I think it was Lowell or something like that. But they put on another great match as well at TakeOver Dallas. To me, it was probably the best TakeOver in my opinion since they started. So that's why I'm going to give my number 6 pick to NXT TakeOver Dallas. That's my number 6 pick. Number 5 was the pay-per-view that got me to be a wrestling fan. SummerSlam 2013. This show, I want to go back and watch it again because, there's matches I want to appreciate again. We had RVD versus Dean Ambrose for the U.S. title in the pre-show. I don't know if I'll be able to see that match, though. But we also had I remember we had Big E and AJ taking on Dolph Ziggler and maybe Caitlyn, I think it was, in a mixed tag match. We had Alberto Del Rio taking on Christian in a really good match there as well. But the 2 marquee matches of that pay-per-view that I can remember very vividly: Brock Lesnar versus CM Punk in a classic. It would have been nice to see Punk win that match, but that was just an absolute classic. Probably one of Punk's best matches in his career, I'd say. That or the 2011 Money in the Bank championship match, or even another good. He had great matches with Jeff Hardy also 2009, and of course the Undertaker and WrestleMania 29 also probably the best match of that show. But that match as well, and of course the moment that I was locked in again. I had watched some of the rest of the stuff throughout 2013 when my friends took me to an event in 2012, the Christmas edition of Raw and the SmackDown tapings also as well. But that was like, a show a lot of people say, how did you possibly continue to watch this after you've seen that show? Again, I don't know, but I just did. But that night when Daniel Bryan beat John Cena, and then when Triple H turned on Daniel Bryan and handed the title to Randy Orton, that's when I was just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. Like, like why this happened? Like, I wanted to happen next. Like, I was excited to see Daniel Bryan win the title. He was just an underdog again that just came across and beat one of the best in the business, and to see that all get taken away. My goodness, of course, like, it had the fans furious. They wanted to see Daniel Bryan win that title, and it got taken away just like that. And that's why I'm just like, I want to see what happens next. I started watching more often, and I went to the Raw on October 7th, 2013. That was the first ever Raw I attended live. Well, besides the Christmas tapings, but after that, that's when I started watching full time. And Summerslam 2013 is a pay-per-view that made me a wrestling fan. So that's why it's one of the best SummerSlams of all time. I'll be watching the SummerSlams this summer after WrestleMania 34 to do retro reviews on those, but I cannot wait to watch that pay-per-view again. My number 5 is SummerSlam 2013. Now, numbers 2 to 4 are more so personal memories, like, places I've attended, and like, other things that have happened to me as a wrestling fan. My number 4 was when the first ever pay-per-view I attended live was the 2014 Royal Rumble. It was live right here in Pittsburgh from at the time, Console Energy Center. Now it's PPG Paints Arena. I hate that name. But I just had a great time. I got to experience, it was the second Royal Rumble ever. The first one I ever watched was Royal Rumble in 2013. I just remember, we made our voices heard that night for Daniel Bryan. But it was a great show. We had the good pre-show match with Cody Rhodes and Goldust, the tag champions, taking on the New Age Outlaws. They had a great pre-show match. The opening match with Daniel Bryan and Bray Wyatt. It's an unbelievable match. Even though, in terms of matches he won, that was probably the strongest Bray Wyatt ever looked. My favorite part of that match, well, even though it was Daniel Bryan, was when Bryan went for that suicide dive, and Bray Wyatt countered by hitting a Sister Abigail on him, catching him hitting the Sister Abigail into the barricade, which is pretty much what led to the end of the match with Bray Wyatt winning it. The match with Brock Lesnar and the Big Show, that wasn't really that good of a match. And then of course John Cena and Randy Orton. The match they had was good, but the problem is again, we've seen the match how many times? Like, it was just nothing really fresh and new. We just crapped on it the whole entire time. It's just nothing really good to really save the match. That's where also Bray Wyatt interfered, and because it was starting to set up the feud with Bray Wyatt and John Cena for WrestleMania 30 that year. And then we had the Royal Rumble match, which we saw some good spots in there. We saw the return of Kevin Nash. Sheamus returned also that night. I'm trying to think, we got a couple other surprises. I can't remember who they were. Roman Reigns broke Kane's record of 12 eliminations. The first Royal Rumble that all 3 members of the Shield were in. CM Punk, it was his last match in WWE, didn't know at the time. He was chokeslammed by Kane, and he walked out the next day. I got to see his last match at least. And of course, Batista winning it. And then, of course, poor Rey Mysterio being booed whenever he came out number 30 instead of Daniel Bryan. And I remember I was watching an Inside the Ropes interview with Mysterio, and he mentioned himself, he was this close to just literally just handing Bryan his number and saying, just take it. He says, I don't have, you're going to get cheered. I'm going to get booed going out there. But, I do like how this year Rey got to be a surprise entrant in the 2017 Rumble match and kind of like, get that the support he should have gotten there, because he didn't deserve that. That wasn't his fault. That was us just booing the company for what they did. Batista winning it, definitely people weren't too thrilled about, but it did lead to that great story building up to what the Authority wanted to see, which was Batista and Orton at WrestleMania. But instead, Daniel Bryan fought his way around the stakes to get to that, which of course you will be hearing about that match again soon. My number 3 was one of my favorite trips I've taken so far in my life, which was in 2015. Even though the one show was good, the other one wasn't bad, but there was no really story in it. But My number 3 was my trip to New York City in 2015 to see NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 1 and SummerSlam. Now, the only problem was we only got this. I went with 2 of my friends, Daniel Guys and my friend Andy Stuchel. The only problem was we missed the first hour of TakeOver because we took a mega bus out and we got stuck in traffic like an hour into our trip. So we got into to New York. It was probably around 9 o'clock, I'd say we got there, because the first hour was the dark show match. It's probably the tapings for that week's episode of NXT. And I remember we got there and we were like trying to hurry up because like we were almost missing. Like that's like $50-$60 down the drain right there. So we got to the hotel, we checked into New York, or got in there, and we knew where we'd already talked about, where we needed to get on for like the subways stations and whatnot. But with like how, like chaotic it was, we were literally running around New York like it was one of the chase scenes in Home Alone, just trying to get to the Barclays Center. So we got there. We only missed the first hour. We arrived when the beginning of the Samoa Joe and Baron Corbin match. We got to see that. We got to see that amazing women's match between Bayley and Sasha Banks when Bayley won the NXT Women's Championship. It was just going back and watching it again, it's one of those matches where you feel you don't have to even know the story. You just have to watch the match and just appreciate it for what it is, and the story being told there. Sasha just being like the heel, like the bossy girl who just pushes around Bayley, saying, you're not that great, you're pathetic and whatnot. And Bayley just showing all that heart as that, girl that any young girl want to look up to and be, pretty much. The story was just so well told. The match was unreal. And of course, with Finn Balor and Kevin Owens having their match, their ladder match for the NXT Championship, and for following a match as good as Bayley and Sasha, they put on a really great ladder match for the championship match. It was fun. Again, we missed the tag title match between Blake and Murphy and the Vaudevillains. The Vaudevillains won, and the match with Tyler Breeze and Justin Thunder Liger. We missed those 2 matches as well, which I never got to go back and watch them. But it was just an unbelievable show. It definitely also, I would say, one of my favorite takeovers, one of the better takeovers of all time, I'd say. But I still give the best one to NXT TakeOver Dallas. Just what a heck of a show that was. But that, and then of course SummerSlam, we went to a Yankee game actually earlier that day just to go to Yankee Stadium. We got Prince Street Pizza, which if you're in New York and you need a good place to go get pizza, go to Prince Street Pizza. Pretty darn good pizza. I enjoyed it. And then we got to SummerSlam. The show wasn't bad. It was the first SummerSlam, though, that was 4 hours long. So I would say it wasn't a bad show, but it was long, got a little boring at times. I say it was like a C+ show. I think it's what I gave to it, a C+. Thank you for the subscription. I just got an alert for. But I still enjoyed it. It was just a great experience. I mean, we got to see John Cena and Seth Rollins have a great title match. I remember enjoying that match. There was a night also where I felt that I personally became a fan of the New Day. Forgot whatever they said, the promo they cut when it came out for their fatal 4-way tag match. I remember the first time my friends and I started chanting "New Day rocks." Like that was when I felt like the New Day finally got over with the crowd. They were starting to get somewhere when they turned heel and won the tag titles off of Tyson Kidd and Cesaro Extreme Rules, and they dropped them briefly to the Primetime Players, and then they won the titles back tonight. But that was when I felt the New Day just gained their momentum and just started moving forward. It was just an awesome night. But we had that with the New Day. We had of course we had also the Undertaker and Brock Lesnar put on a pretty good match. Had a weird finish, but it did lead to that great Hell in a Cell match they had 2 months later. But overall, I gotta say that was a really fun trip for me going to New York. Sadly, we would have stayed for Raw, but we had to get back because school started back up that week. And with me only having classes once a week in college because of my major, I didn't really want to miss too many classes because I it affected my grade for missing. I could only miss so many classes, but I didn't like to miss class when I was in school. I didn't skip school unless I was that sick. But yeah, so my number 3 is my trip to New York in 2015, the SummerSlam, and also NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 1. Now my number 2 is going to involve me using some visual aids again. My number 2 is my experiences meeting WWE superstars. I have videos for each of these 3 experiences on my channel. You may go back and watch them. But so I've met 3 WWE superstars, and all of them I think were well worth it. All 3 of them were at this convention that Pittsburgh has each year in like the weekend before the Royal Rumble. Usually it's called the World of Wheels convention. They always have a few people that are signing autographs. They usually have a WWE superstar. Well, at first in 2016 it was supposed to be Seth Rollins, which at the time I was still a Seth Rollins fan, but he wasn't like one of my top like favorites at the time. Well, saying that while I'm wearing my Burn It Down t-shirt, but I was going to be I was going to be going to meet Seth Rollins. Well, then that was around the time where Seth Rollins got hurt, and like a week after that, we were told that Daniel Bryan was going to be there replacing him instead. I'm just like, nothing is stopping me. I am going to meet Daniel Bryan. With the story you guys know heck of a times, Daniel Bryan, my number 1 favorite, the guy who got me into watching wrestling. I'm like, I'm going. I need to be there. So the tough part was the night that we're getting ready to leave, it was snowing. They were calling for snow. Hadn't really started much yet, but we were a little concerned. And I'll be real mean, I wouldn't mind going to go see Seth Rollins. Like I would still want to go meet Seth Rollins today. But if it was Seth Rollins at that time, we probably would not have gone down because of the snow. But with Daniel Bryan, the odds were stacked against us. And what we didn't know was that was the day after Daniel Bryan found out he had to retire. It was 2 weeks before Daniel Bryan announced his retirement on Raw, and it was literally the day after he apparently found out that he had to retire. So all the odds were stacked against us. MRB Wrestling Reviews, thank you for the subscription, by the way. The Undertaker got me to watch wrestling. That is awesome, man. He is definitely, one of the greatest of all time as well. But I'll share it. Here's the photo on my Instagram. But I went down and I went to meet Daniel Bryan at the World Wheels Convention. He signed. I had the documentary of him, My Improbable Journey to Wrestlemania. I went to. I remember getting up there and I was shaking like crazy. I'm just like, I can't believe this is happening. I keep looking outside. I'm like, I hope it's not getting too bad out. I got home, right when it was starting to get really bad. So I got home safe tonight. But I just remember I'm just like, hi. And he's like, what's your name? Mike. And then I'm just like, I don't want to sound like too corny. I don't want to be that fan because like too excited. It makes him feel weird because like I know the guy's humble. Like he doesn't want to make a big deal out of it. But I'm just like, I'm a really huge fan. He's like, oh, thank you. And I said, and I think this is a really good documentary. He said, oh, thank you very much. Takes a picture, shook his hand saying it was nice meeting you and whatnot. And I'm like walking away. I'm like, yours, because I was excited. But again, it just really, I feel like the coincidence that with the first had to be Seth Rollins, which again I wouldn't have minded, but with it being Daniel Bryan, and then literally again being the day after he apparently found out he had to retire, because my friend went before me and he said something like, "Yeah, the main roster needs you. They need to bring you back. They need to clear. They need you." And I guess Bryan was like, "Yeah," or something like that. But once again, it's like he knew he had to retire, but he couldn't say anything then. But with the snow and that, the odds were stacked against us that night. And I am glad, though, I got to overcome that. Now, the second wrestler I've gotten to meet, which I'll scroll up and pull up that photo, is the phenomenal AJ Styles. I met him 1 year later at the other World of Wheels convention in Pittsburgh. I passed it up. Let's scroll down. I know I have the photo somewhere here. 2016. Here it is. So 1 year later, this is when I got to meet AJ Styles, when he was the current WWE champion, which you cannot see, but right behind my hand as he was doing the too sweet pose there, buddy, is the actual title belt. So we got to see that. But I wasn't stuck in a long. I went there by myself though, like this year, last year, because my friend was sick. But I didn't really have anything I had for AJ to sign. So at first I was just going to purchase a photo there, but then my friend, which you can only have one autograph per person. My friend was like, well, why don't you have I was going to have him sign it. So like, well, why don't I take it and get it signed for you anyways? So, I'll be there. I'll get the photo. You'll get the autographs. So cool. So I got there. I wanted to tell him that my favorite match was definitely him and Cena at SummerSlam. But he was moving through pretty fast. And also I told him I had a friend who wasn't able to come there, but he wanted to tell me, he said hi. It's like, that's cool. Does the pose. I shook his hand. And nice meeting you. Good luck. He goes, take care, bud. So that was fun as well. MRB Wrestling Review says Daniel Bryan seems to be a real approachable kind of dude. Yes, he definitely is. And so was AJ Styles. But again, I probably would have been able to talk to him more, but he was like really rushed. The line was long. I waited in line for about an hour and 45. Actually, I got there like 15, 20 minutes earlier before the line started. Because I mean, it was a 3-hour autograph sign. I waited for like 2 hours, almost 2 hours to get AJ's autograph. And finally, the third superstar I got to meet, which was actually this year, was about a month ago. It's a blur up there. Can't see. Come on. Aha. Kurt Angle. I got to meet Kurt Angle at the World Wrestling Convention. It was on the Saturday because Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles were on the Friday night. This was on a Saturday afternoon. It was only for 2 hours. So I was going to be going there by myself. I got there an hour early to get in a good spot in line because I was worried that, well, because I've been getting close to like, an hour 45, 2 hours. Like, what if I get cut off? So that's why I got like an hour earlier. I got to meet Kurt. It's over there, but I'm gonna go reach him. I had him sign a page that he was on, this encyclopedia that I was given. And thank goodness, again, for being a late bloomer fan, I went back and watched all the WrestleManias and such. Like, recently, because like, I've seen Kurt Angle stuff. I just wouldn't know what else to really talk to him about. But, I got up to him. He says, hey, who is this for? And I said, oh, Mike. So as he's signing it, I told him, which is true, my favorite match I've seen him in so far would definitely have to be his match with Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 21, which when he made that botch at the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view last Sunday. Was this past Sunday, I'm thinking, oh, he's probably thinking about that match or this conversation I had with him. But I mentioned that to him, and he goes, oh, I really gave it to Shawn. I just told him how I really love like that finish, like how long it took you try to get Shawn out to the ankle lock to actually excel your career as well. Like he really had to sell that ankle lock. It had to be a lot to get him to tap out to that. And like we had a good conversation about that match, and he was like very grateful that I liked that. And then took the photo, and then he said at the end, of course, thank you for definitely coming. Nice meeting you. I said, oh, you're welcome, and congratulations to the Hall of Fame as well. And his like face love, he just like really appreciated me saying that. Thank you as well. But yeah. So far, again, I've been wrestling for 5 years. I've met 3 big superstars: Daniel Bryan, AJ Styles, and Kurt Angle. Just an awesome one. Awesome amount of people I got to meet. But so yeah, that's my number 2. And of course, you can probably guess it, my number 1 favorite moment as a wrestling fan is WrestleMania 30. Daniel Bryan's performance at WrestleMania 30 to win the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. It was not supposed to happen, guys. There's a storyline that started back in 2013 at SummerSlam 2013 when the Authority was formed and Triple H turned on Daniel Bryan, got Randy Orton to cash in, and the Authority have been doing all they can to keep Daniel Bryan out of the title picture. He feuded with the Wyatt family, and there was rumors that, and it was true, it was back in true indeed, Bryan even said himself in his documentary and even in his book that I've read, that his WrestleMania opponent that year was indeed supposed to be Sheamus. Supposed to be like 5th on the card, getting like a 12-minute match. What would that have done? Like, you were really going to take this great story involving an underdog who like was so over the crowd and just throw him into a random match with a guy that, Sheamus, great talent and whatnot, but you're going to really throw him with a guy that he has had a bad history with at WrestleMania. They could have incorporated some story about, the whole 18 seconds thing, but it's like, it would not have worked for the position Daniel Bryan was in. Daniel Bryan was like the Braun Strowman. Like, he's not big like Braun Strowman, but, he was so over that you couldn't leave him off a big match. And it took CM Punk quitting and the fans, like having their voice heard, and it all became like the story. Like, us fans was pretty much that story. The Occupy Raw segment. Oh, I forgot to put that on my list. The Occupy Raw segment was just one of the most unbelievable moments on Raw. Maybe one of my favorite moments of Raw as well. The Occupy Raw segment, and pushing Triple H over the edge, giving the match. So he faced Triple H. That's who CM Punk was supposed to face, and he added that if I win the match, he gets added to the main event of WrestleMania. So that way it's a triple threat against Orton and Batista. And then, like, if you push Triple H over the edge, he got the match. But then a week later, when Batista and Orton are trying to, talk them out of it, Triple H just got ticked off and said, you know what? That's it. There is going to be a triple threat match at WrestleMania. Because when I beat Daniel Bryan, I will beat you guys for the championship and whatnot. And just the bill was there, the badass entrance by Triple H at WrestleMania. And then the match they had, to me, either this match between Bryan and Triple H or the match at WrestleMania 10 between Owen and Bret Hart is the best opening match in WrestleMania history, in my opinion. Just unbelievable. Yeah. And yes, MRB Wrestling Review said WrestleMania 30 will always be the show that ruined Taker's streak. Could you imagine if, like, this story was not involved in that pay-per-view? If we got the card we're supposed to have, CM Punk and Triple H, Daniel Bryan versus Sheamus, Brock Lesnar defeating the Undertaker streak. It's like when that 3 count happened, like, again, I'd only been watching wrestling for like a year, but I knew how important that streak was as well. And I felt impacted by that as well. Like, when that happened, I'm like, oh, Taker kicked out. Like, he didn't. Like, it got so quiet at my friend's house. There was like 10 of us in there. Nobody spoke for a good couple of minutes. Like, we were all just in shock by that. But could you imagine, like, if we didn't have that ending, like, if we had just Orton and Batista, and just that would have been one of the saddest WrestleManias of all time, I feel, in my opinion. Daniel Bryan saved that WrestleMania. Daniel Bryan made that WrestleMania, like, remembered for what it was. And he was the one who made it one of the best WrestleManias, I'd say, of all time. And it's still personally my favorite, but about WrestleMania 17 is the greatest one of all time, in my opinion. But man, like, just that match, that main event match, after Bryan beat Triple H, the Authority just threw everything at him, just trying to stop him from continuing this, this yes movement and whatnot by, bringing out Scott Armstrong. Actually, after the match, they beat down Daniel Bryan again. Triple H brought his sledgehammer. He brought Scott Armstrong, Stephanie. They tried their best to do anything to take out Bryan. Orton and Batista took him out with the RKO, or the Batista bump to the RKO into the announce table. Daniel Bryan's being taken away on a stretcher. I honestly thought, as a fan, like, that's it. He's gone. He's done for tonight. I'm just like, just go, Batista. Give him the belt. What the heck? But then when Daniel Bryan broke out, he got back in there. He took out Orton. And then the thing was, Daniel Bryan on a couple of occasions had already beaten Orton. So I felt for him getting Batista to tap out was definitely probably the best way you could go to have that match being finished. But he defied all the odds. He took out the Authority. He took out Stephanie. He took out Scott Armstrong, took out Triple H, he took out Randy Orton, and he took out Batista. He took out all these obstacles that have been thrown at him for months, and he finally just accomplished it. I just jumped up. I remember my friend and I just grabbed him, like, lifted up in the air, like yeah, like, we were just going nuts. It's like we've been waiting for that moment to happen for so long. It was just like, well, we can't really say a happy ending to the story because the feud did somewhat continue. I personally do feel if Daniel Bryan never got injured, he would have been the leader of Team Cena. It wouldn't have been Team Cena versus Team Authority. It would have been Team Bryan versus Team Authority. That's my honest opinion. I feel it was for 2014. But man, it was just an unreal moment. And for me, that's why, to me, it is my favorite moment as a wrestling fan. The story of, again, me being a wrestling fan goes back to 2012. Me meeting some of my new friends when I started college. And then we were just, finding things to do. And then the one night they're like, hey, I don't know if you're really into this, but, would you like to come anyways to show us? Like, yeah, sure. It was the Christmas Raw and SmackDown tapings. Night Del Rio killed Cena and the Christmas street fight. And, of course, I was introduced to the great Khali as the world's tallest Christmas elf. People say, Mike, how the heck did you become a WWE fan tonight? Well, I mean, I watched some stuff, because I wasn't like that big a fan, but, I was invited to watch Rumble with my friends, Elimination Chamber, WrestleMania 29, and SummerSlam. When that turn happened, I'm just like, that grabbed my attention. I'm like, you got me. Let's do this. And just for it to all culminate here, just an unreal journey for me. For me as a wrestling fan, it was. What do you think about some of the comparisons between Daniel Bryan and Johnny Gargano? It's definitely there. I mean, it's like a similar route for him, for Johnny Gargano as well, except, it's a different story, but it does feel like, like a Daniel Bryan type journey. I personally, the match that Johnny Gargano had with Andrade Cien Almas at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 3, you would not think anything of that besides just getting Johnny Gargano onto the card at first. You would not think that would be, built into this big feud that would draw some big storyline. And not only got, further Johnny Gargano's character, but got Andrade Cien Almas, in a better position as well. Because Andrade was doing better once he turned heel, but he needed someone else to give him that momentum. And of course, adding Zelina Vega with him as well, just even skyrocketed too. And Zelina went out of her way to literally expose the DIY T-shirt to get into Johnny Gargano's head, and it costed Johnny the match. They had a rematch in NXT a few weeks later. Gargano lost again. Of course, that's when Andrade was pushing to get a title shot from Drew McIntyre. Almas won the match, and then as soon as I saw that Almas was going to have that match, I said, "You gotta do it this way," because I would have rather have had the match with Gargano and Ciampa for the NXT Championship, because I personally feel that needs to be the main event. If we're to have it at TakeOver New Orleans or Chicago or even both, there's nothing going to be bigger than that match. The match they had in the Cruiserweight Classic was unreal. Nothing's going to top off that match, in my opinion. So that's why I was kind of hoping what would have happened was Almas won the title, and it was set up, and then eventually set up to have a third match between them, since Almas is literally somebody who has Gargano's number. Have that match between them at TakeOver Philadelphia. Gargano didn't win, but I gotta give them the credit. The match right now so far, that is my match of the year for this year so far, is the match between Gargano and Almas at TakeOver. At TakeOver Philadelphia. Tommaso Ciampa returned afterwards with a crutch shot to the back, but then, of course, with Johnny putting his career on the line and Ciampa, taking him out there, and it cost him his career. And just, wow, the darkness, just the bold heel that Tommaso Ciampa has become is unreal. He literally is looking like a scary dude you do not want to mess around with the beard and everything. The tweets he posts is just cryptic. I don't read spoilers when I watch NXT, but I am just dying to find out how Johnny Gargano is going to work his way back. As we all know, that match with him and Tommaso Ciampa is happening, whether it's TakeOver New Orleans or, as I mentioned, even if it doesn't have a TakeOver New Orleans, they want to keep it till TakeOver Chicago, because that is the place where, because they're having a TakeOver Chicago the weekend of Money in the Bank. That's the place where Tommaso Ciampa performed the turn, but where they have it at TakeOver New Orleans or Chicago, I just cannot wait to see what curveball they're going to throw at Johnny Gargano to make him earn his job back. Thank you for the question. Thank you for the question. MRB Wrestling Reviews. He thinks the match of the year so far is Aleister Black versus Adam Cole street fight. The Gargano CN Brooklyn 3 match is overrated. I mean, that wasn't their best match, but I still thought that was strong. But I was talking about their match at TakeOver Philly. That match, I think, was one of those on my edge of the seat match. But the match with, I honestly thought that the match with Black and Cole was going to be match night, and it was definitely another match of the year candidate in my opinion. But I just like the main event of TakeOver Philadelphia just a slight bit better. But definitely that match is also a great choice for match of the year contention. Thank you for your questions but yeah, so wow, almost 2 hours again. And I know Lauren and Hassan also didn't get to see it again, but I do, if you guys didn't watch this later, or anybody who was watching earlier, I do apologize that I did have to restart this live stream. Again, I had someone trying to FaceTime me, and it ruined my camera. It wouldn't allow me to turn my camera back on for some reason. That's why I had to restart the live stream. But here's my list again of my top 25 favorite moments as a wrestling fan. My number 25 was Bray Wyatt asking for an answer from The Undertaker from the March 9, 2015 episode of Raw. I was, again, a fan of the big lightning strike that happened there. And also, I was in attendance live for that segment. Number 24 was last year when John Cena told off The Miz on the March 28, 2017 episode of SmackDown Live, the go-home show for their mixed tag match at WrestleMania 33. Where we find blanks down there, sport? That segment. Number 23 was the Shield versus Evolution feud in 2014. Number 22 was the Seth Rollins and Triple H feud in 2016. Number 21 was the Paige's main roster debut on April 7th, 2014 on Raw. Number 20 was Team Cena versus Team Authority at Survivor Series 2014. Number 19 was Seth Rollins as Mr. Money in the Bank in 2015. Number 18 was Chris Jericho's 2016-2017 run. Number 17 was the main event of Money in the Bank in 2016. Number 16 was Shane McMahon's return on the February 22nd, 2016 edition of Raw. Number 15 was the Shield breakup on the June 2nd, 2014 edition of Raw. Number 14 was John Cena's U.S. Open challenges in 2015. Number 13 was the Brock Lesnar and Undertaker Brawl on the July 20th, 2015 episode of Raw. Number 12 was Paige's return on the November 20, 2017 edition of Raw. Number 11 was AJ Styles' debut. Number 10 was AJ Styles versus John Cena in 2016. Number 9 was the July 25th, 2016 episode of Raw. Number 8 was Daniel Bryan's retirement speech. Number 7 was the Hardy Boyz return at WrestleMania 33. 6 was TakeOver Dallas. SummerSlam 2015 was number 5 because that was the pay-per-view that got me to be got me a last shot to being a wrestling fan. Number 4 was attending the 2014 Royal Rumble live. Number 13 was my trip in New York City in 2015 to attend TakeOver Brooklyn and SummerSlam 2015. Number 2 was my occasions meeting superstars Daniel Bryan, AJ Styles, and Kurt Angle. And my number 1 is Daniel Bryan winning the title at WrestleMania 30. Now, again, I know this list is a bunch of recent events, again, with me only being a fan of WWE for 5 years, but I've gone back again. I'm still going back and watching old stuff. I've watched all the WrestleManias, all the Royal Rumble matches. I've watched, some old segments. I still definitely want to watch more. And there is stuff back there that I do like. But these moments specifically were the ones that I can look back and you're saying, I remember when this happened. Like, those were the moments that, made me more of a wrestling fan. So that's what I would probably do another one of these sometime, just doing all my favorite moments as a wrestling fan. Like, again, even just not just in my time, but other times as well. I like Triple H, Kurt Angle and Shawn Michaels match at WrestleMania 21, the Undertaker and Shawn Michaels matches at WrestleMania as well. Stuff with The Rock, Mick Foley, Triple H, Chris Jericho's run in 2008 and his feud with Shawn Michaels there as well. Stone Cold moments with Stone Cold Steve Austin, WrestleMania 17. Hulk Hogan's moments as well, and all that stuff. There is a lot more that I can definitely share, but for this live stream in particular, I just wanted to stick to moments that I experienced, like that I remember, like when they actually happened. So let me see here. MRB, I'm in Philly. That's fine. I understand. One of my top favorite moments as a wrestling fan is Edge winning the first Money in the Bank contract. That was definitely good as well because that was when Edge really made that leap into the main event scene. Because when he cashed in on Cena, I think he was in at New Year's Resolution in 2006. I think he was in an Intercontinental title match with Ric Flair earlier that night. But then, because I saw that when I saw him Edge in an Intercontinental title match, I saw stuff from the Edge, when he was, being all opportunities in his years of getting his championship reigns. I'm just I could never. It's just too hard looking back that far to be like, wow, Edge, just being in a mid card run, I'm used to him being in the main event. But Edge is somebody that I wish I was able to witness live. I unfortunately did not, but I've gone back and watched a lot of Edge's material. Definitely someone who I wish I could have watched live as well. But yes, that is definitely a great moment as well. Edge winning the first Money in the Bank ladder match. Yes, thank you again, MRB Wrestling Reviews, for your thoughts as well on this live stream. Since not too many people got to tune to this live, though, I did have viewers until I had those technical difficulties. I had to restart the live stream. I will leave my list in the description box below. But thank you guys again for tuning in. Again, if you're watching this afterwards and you would like to leave me some of your favorite moments as a wrestling fan, please feel free to do so down in the comment section below. Be sure to click that like video and subscribe for this channel for more content to come. And follow me on Twitter as well at TheManAirboy93, as well as this way I can, associate with, my, chat more with my viewers besides just here on my live streams on YouTube. I don't plan on really doing anything. I'm not sure if I'm going to do anything else. So I can other odds and ends, this weekend at all. I mean, I'll definitely be back up here on Monday for my live Raw review, Tuesday for my live SmackDown review, Wednesday for NXT, Road to WrestleMania, which, again, that's still going to be just recorded because, I want to be able to use my graphics and whatnot. And that's right. Also, I'll be doing my top 10 topics preview for Fastlane next week also. And then next weekend, if I may not get to watch it immediately because I have everything's going on, but I'm not going to go out my way to just be begging to watch Fastlane as of now, but I will still do a live review of Fastlane when I do get the time to watch it next weekend. Nice live stream. Glad you came here. Yes, sure thing. Thank you, MRB Wrestling Reviews, for coming by also, and for subscription to this channel. Again, I hope to keep doing these, just special live streams just once a week, just to do some of this. So I can just come up here and just chat with my YouTube fans. I just appreciate the support as well. I believe with your subscription, I was like 850 some subscribers. And as I always say, I just do this channel for fun. I do whatever I want. I do wrestling videos, do baseball videos. I do video game Let's Plays and whatnot. I mean, I know a lot of people do set things for a channel, but this is just my world I come to just to have fun, to do whatever I want to do. And I always just appreciate the support I get from all my subscribers as well. So definitely thank you for the good words. But once again, I think I'm going to sign here because I've been on here about 2 hours now. I think it's the longest solo live stream I've ever done. I'll plug everything once again since I talked a little bit more. So again, if you would like to leave any comments down in the comment section below of your favorite moments as a wrestling fan, be free to do so. Click that like and subscribe for more content on this channel. Follow me on Twitter, TheManAirboy93. Check out also my unboxing video of my Burn It Down t-shirt that I just got today. Again, that is now makes me have a Seth Rollins, Dean Ambrose, Roman Reigns, and a Shield shirt. So I have all three for each member, and the Shield shirt as well. So I have the big collection there as well. Check out this week's episode of Road to WrestleMania also, and my live reviews for Raw, SmackDown, NXT this week. Again, with 205 Live picking up, I will consider doing 205 Live reviews after WrestleMania because I just want to see what the show can bring to us, because this tournament has been great since Triple H took over, but I want to see what 205 Live can bring to us without the tournament. But we'll see what happens there. I may add those in as well. And then I'll try to do another special live stream next week sometime if I have the time. But yes, guys, as I keep saying, enough. Thank you again for tuning in. And I just got NXT reviews for fun. Yeah, I'll definitely try to check them out as well. I'll hit you up with a subscription after I sign off here. But guys, yeah, again, thank you for tuning in. I've talked a lot. I need a breather. But thank you guys again for tuning in. It's much appreciated as well. And with that, guys, I am going to check out. Until then, guys, have a great night, or good morning if you're on the East Coast of the United States, because it is 12:19 in the morning. But yeah, have a great night, guys. And yeah, peace out.